Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to post this immediately. I have Microsoft, like extra cloud storage, and Microsoft took like 2 extra payments for the month of October. So where it should have been $10, it took $30. And in order to get reimbursed the $20 that it shouldn't have taken, I had to cancel my subscription altogether for the storage. So I'm going to wait until the money is credited back to my account before I try to re-up that. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it on my computer tonight. With that being the case, although it should still count through October, right? Because it was October's payment. And I just want the extra back, not the original payment. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. Either it gets posted today or it doesn't. I have a backup drive for my computer because I had so much extra stuff on it, and I was going through, and basically everything that I had on my desktop, all the pictures and everything that I had in different folders, I went ahead and got those moved to the other drive, which is probably a good idea anyway, because my computer's kind of a dinosaur, and the other day I wasn't so sure it wasn't going to quit on me, because they went to like this blue screen where it stayed there for a little bit, and I had it do that, or not this computer, I think my last computer did that. It was this computer, and my friend redid the hard drive since then. But I don't want to lose all my shit. So all the stuff I've been writing and all my pictures and everything, I got them moved over, and like I had like some PDFs from stuff that I've gotten online that I wanted to keep, all that stuff moved. So maybe I'll have more space on my computer to be able to do it. But I don't know yet. So today is October 30th, and if it is not October 30th when it gets posted, then so be it. But in the meantime, since tomorrow is Halloween, and I'm not going anywhere tomorrow, I went to the blood center today, so I got to break out the little Freddy Krueger sweater dress thing, because this is the only time I was going anywhere, and then I didn't want to not do a video while I'm all festive, and I got these pants, so I was really happy about that. But the shirt kind of concerns me a little bit because it's already doing this, and it looks like it has a bunch of open loops, and kind of scares me to wash it, honestly. And like earlier, and like this one, this wad come out at me, and it's like, oh, cool. I still like it though, and I feel like that kind of, I feel like it is appropriate for the shirt being what it is, and I got it on clearance, so I'm not going to knock it. Just going to hope that the delicate cycle doesn't kill it, and maybe see if there is anything I can do to deter more of it from falling apart, because I don't know. I'm not real handy with sewing things or whatever, so I don't really know what I would do on tweaking it, other than potentially tying some of the loops together with thread, to keep them from popping out, because I don't know, it's not, I don't know. It just made me sad when it was all doing all that. So yeah, you can kind of see what I'm talking about there, the little loops. Don't want to mess it up either, So, since I don't really know what I'm doing, would that mess it up more? Or would it just tweak it enough that it would be okay? I don't know. But either way, I enjoy it for today, since I don't get to wear it that much anyway. Although I really could. I am weird enough, so why not? I might. But I had to, since, tomorrow's Halloween. And again, I'm not going anywhere, not doing anything that, as far as I know. But yeah. And I broke out the way cool boots that I love again. My little sparkle boots. That I tweaked with, it's skate laces, so thus the purple. But it also has like little things on it that says Mystic Storm. It's my derby name. And then on the back loop, I have a little Cancer crab thing that says, on the back of it, it says Imaginative. That was just like a little thing I found on Etsy. It's like, hey, I like that, so I'm going to get it. Boot bling, because I needed that in my life. Not really. I don't have anything that I've really been. Yes, I want to talk about that today. I guess there's a couple odds and ends. Okay, so yesterday I went to the library again and got some movies. Now I have hair in my sleeve and it's going to annoy me and I can't grab it. It's pink against the burgundy. But when I hold it against my pants, I can't find it. And since I'm trying to do it one-handed, it's not working real well. Anyway. So I got a couple movies from the library that were like really new. They're in the section of due back next week or I'm going to start getting fines again. So I decided to start with those this time around and I watched them last night, same day that I got them. So that's new and unusual. Normally I hold on to movies as long as I can and then end up not watching most of them before they're due back for real. Because I get them for a week and then they automatically renew, I think, up to 3 weeks. But yeah, anyway, so I found this one. It was Clown in a Cornfield. It's like, okay, I'll try it. And then the other one was Final Destination Bloodlines. And I watched how many of those were there? 5? Whatever there were. I watched those, I think in the past month or so. And enjoyed them. And so I didn't get this one watched yet. So I watched it. And I think I liked it better than the first ones. But okay, so the Clown in the Cornfield one. I've talked a lot on here about, I feel like one of my biggest frustrations with like older generations is, like, especially from my family, right? We'll start with my family. It seems very much like the whole system has been set up to not teach you anything, but just to laugh when you're too naive and don't know something, right? So like, this is my family. It's like when I didn't know something, rather than teaching me, they made me feel stupid about it, right? And with that, there's also been a lot of not wanting things to be better for the younger generations. It's more, haha, we had to deal with it, now you have to deal with it. But it's like, what is the use of that thinking, right? What is the point of bringing children into the world and being pleased that they have it as bad as you do? That fucking sucks. That is a ridiculous way to, I guess, want to leave the world, really. not improving anything. But like, okay, especially with my dad's, like, one of my biggest pet peeves that I've talked about on here a ton with him is, okay, like, he flat out told my brother back in December last year that he was the oldest, and as the oldest, it is his responsibility to take care of his parents once they start going downhill, right? And since my dad's parents have been dead for years, my grandpa died in 2004 and my grandma died in 2012. So they've been gone for a long time. My mom, of course, she's like 8.5 years younger than my dad anyway. Her dad just died in December, and her mom's still around. But, my grandma's very much the same way my dad is. And, not wanting to improve anything, just, ha ha ha, now it's your burden to bear. And I don't like it by any means. I was very much a motivating factor for my brother to get out of town with all the stuff. Okay, so I started doing my healing stuff and setting boundaries with the family. And as I started setting boundaries, I was noticing that there was a lot of bullshit going on that I just kept going along with when I didn't have boundaries. And so I started talking to my brother about what I was noticing. And then I started giving him ways to protect his boundaries. And as he started protecting his boundaries, then it was like, the fuck is going on with these people? They're ridiculous. Right? So, my brother finally got to a point where he's like, I don't think I can raise my daughter how I want to being around them. It's like, I don't think they will allow it. It's like, they don't want us, like, they flat out did not want us to have our own lives, right? It was a sort of, it felt like at some level my mom was celebrating when I was getting divorced, because that didn't work out. Now I was back and could fulfill my duty, right? As to take care of the family, right? And just not have my own life, right? I was just supposed to quit. And in a lot of ways I did. Again, until that whole twin flame thing came up, and then, and the connecting point was in 2021, but I wasn't aware of what it was at that point in time. It was just this weird thing that happened where I went on this live stream, happened to say something, and he responded. And there was very much that sense of feeling like a mouse running through the kitchen and somebody flips the lights on. And it's like, right? But I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't even at the time connect it to his energy because I didn't know what was happening, right? I knew the twin flame topic was, it kept coming up, but it seemed like there was intention behind when I was being reintroduced to the idea of it, right? So, like, I don't even know how I ended up coming across the Twin Flames 1111 page, but she had like this thing, it was like a course thing where it talked about different parts of the thing, and I went ahead and got it and was like studying up on it, and was like, well, this feels like it is meant for me, right? But it's one of those things, I've said many times, it's like, I don't want anybody that comes into my space now going back and making it a priority to watch all of my videos or anything. Honestly, I feel like that would be a waste of time in general. I feel like I've done enough of these things at this point in time that if there is something that I have spoken to in the past that would be relevant for someone, I feel like the universe can put that specific video in front of them if there's something that was said that they need, right? I feel like just sitting there and watching them, it would be redundant for one thing, because I talk a lot about the same things over and over again, just with different angles and depths and all that fun stuff. So it's like I wouldn't I wouldn't want anybody to spend all that kind of time with it, right? So there have been things that have come up along the way, and I've talked about like Aaron Dowdy and Victor Odo and how I came across their videos, and of course it started with Vic. I was working at Amazon at that point in time, and I'm wanting to say it was like November or December. I'm leaning towards December of 2019. I started that job in October. And something came up on YouTube one night and I was talking about empaths. And it's like, well, I know that's relevant for me, but I don't really know what it is or what it means or any of that stuff, right? And of course, that whole thing came up when I was in seminary after I got my TBI, and I was doing my hospital chaplaincy internship. And we had one of our class days. We were watching. I think there was at least part of a PowerPoint. I think there was a video with it. I don't know what all it was, but I remember we were having this conversation about people that pick up on energies, and I just got really set on. I think it was, there was, like, my brain got really latched on the idea of, okay, like, I had always heard the term empathetic at that point in time, but then she kept saying empathic, and it just, like, it's like I couldn't fully register what she was talking about. Well, I do remember her saying something about, people that pick up other people's energies and whatnot, or feelings, or I don't remember how exactly she worded it. It's been a few years. I've slept since then. But, because that was fall 2013, I believe. So after my TBI. But I got really hung up when she kept saying empathic, because my brain recognized empathetic, but didn't recognize this new word. And so there was like this little sort of dissonance in how I was hearing it and what I was able to receive of what she was saying. And so in 2019, of course it comes back again. And, and it had come up before then, but not through words so much. It was more after basic training. Like I've talked about on here a lot too, that when I was in basic training, I had this experience where, because I was older than, there was this little group of us. There's at least 4 of us. One girl was 26. I was 28. Another one was 30 or 32. And then there was another girl that was like 40. So we all kind of tended to stay connected with each other more than the younger ones. But one day, one of the female drill sergeants asked me and one of my battle buddies if we would go stand in as battle buddy for this 17-year-old that was in basic training. It was in the middle of her senior year. She was going to do basic training, and then she was going to go back, finish school, and graduate, and then go active Army, I believe. And so there was a little bit of a weird thing, just because she was so much, she was younger than most, although there were a lot of people that were upper teens anyway, but like 18, 19. But then there was then there was us, and we were so much older. So we got asked, and I thought it was one girl, and then I asked her about it later, and she didn't seem to know what I was talking about, so I'm not sure it was. But the thing with that was we had to go stand in as her battle buddy because she needed to talk to the cadre. And of course, you can't do that without a battle buddy. And so we got to stand in with her, and we didn't know ahead of time what was going on or anything. But, okay, so we're standing in there, and it's really uncomfortable enough as it is, just having to be in this situation where you don't know what's going on, but there's a conversation getting ready to be had, and it was just a very intense feeling, right? And, there's like all these nerves. But when the cadre came in, it was like I was hit by this wave of energy and emotion, and it's like all I could do to keep from falling to my knees in tears at that point in time. It's like, I don't know now. I really don't know what's going on, but don't fuck this up because we're standing in front of people that we could get in trouble. Right? So it's like trying not to fuck it up, basically. But anyway, once she started talking, then it made sense, because she started talking about having been sexually assaulted by one of the drill sergeants. And it was like, 17-year-old kid, and this dude was like 36. So, obviously, it was an intense sort of thing anyway. But like from that moment on, it's like I couldn't be around anybody without just like this. There was a pretty constant stream of I hate everybody, I hate everything, I don't want to be here kind of a thing. And like trying not to fuck it up, because I knew that I was supposed to be there, but I didn't know what this whole situation was. Other than there was a lot of intensity, and then after, like from that moment on, it's like every time we were in formation, I hated everybody. But then it's like it was all I could do to get through the week. And then every Sunday, I had to go to chapel. It's like, do not get in the way of me going to chapel. And basically what that ended up being was, yes, it was the church service. There was a whole lot of people that went, and there were several that went just for the sake of not having to do the, the cleanup stuff that everybody else that wasn't trying to be mindful of some kind of religious mumbo jumbo, that they were having to do. And the biggest thing was I have to be there, right? And what it was every single weekend, Sunday, the group that I was with, we almost always ended up sitting in the front of the room, in front of all the chairs and tables that they had set up. And I would sit there and just cry the entire time. It's like, what the fuck is going on? It was like everything I could do to get through the week, and then just like cry it out of my system on the weekends. And it was this very intense emotional thing that I couldn't really figure out what was going on with it. Like I didn't know where it was coming from. But I had no idea that I might be picking up somebody else's stuff. That like that wasn't even a concept on my radar, right? So when it really hit me that was like a possibility, even, it was after I got back home after the basic training and my individualized training, and I was sitting on the couch talking to my mom about something with basic training. This point with basic training, it's like I hated everybody, every single like moment of every day. Like aside from like my small little group of like battle buddies that I was interacting with, there's like everybody else is like I hated, didn't want any part of them. They hated the whole experience, and yet I knew like, before I went in, there was no doubt in my mind that that was something I was supposed to be doing. So then I get there, and then I'm getting hit with all these feelings, and it's like, where the fuck is this coming from? And the individualized training, AIT, advanced individualized training, it wasn't as bad. And I think the big part was that girl wasn't there having the big emotions right around me anymore. So I did, like, it had kind of dissipated to some extent. But when I got back home, then it was like it was just completely gone. It's like, what the fuck was that all about? Like, that was the point that I was talking or making with, as I'm having this conversation with my mom, was it's like it just went away. And the entire way through, it's like I hated everybody every single day after that meeting anyway. And then, I would go to chapel on Sundays and cry my way through the whole thing. And then it's like, all right, let's do it again, right? Next week. And I got that a lot through the week even. Like, I was trying my damnedest to go unnoticed by the drill sergeants, and it was like the more I tried to be unnoticed, the more I was noticed. And, I would get to, like, okay, we'd be standing in the line, or the chow line, right? And just standing there in formation, because you're not trying to fuck that up. What was it? Eddie's, you're not supposed to talk to anybody. It's still eyes forward and all that fun stuff. So it's like when I was facing a drill sergeant and just kind of like, please don't notice me, kind of a thing. And there was one drill sergeant in particular that would sit in. She's like, you look like you're going to cry, Jones. Are you going to cry? It's like, and it was always like, no, I don't think so. But then when Sunday hits, like, I couldn't not. It's like, as soon as I was in a place I could breathe, it's like, I just had to cry it out of my system. So when I got home and then had that conversation with my mom, that was like the first it had really hit me that maybe there was something to that. Maybe it was something that I picked up from the environment that I was in. And that itself was before, like, a year and a half before I was in the internship. Okay. Pretty sure it was fall 2013. I'll have to verify that, but I'm pretty sure it was. Because I was supposed to do it in the summer, and then I got my TBI on May 14th. And after that, it was like, I cannot do an internship right now. So I gave it some time, and it probably wasn't really ideal when I did do it. I should probably have given it more time, but it worked out all right. But yeah, so that would have been a year and a half later. But like when I made that comment to my mom, it's like, so it was basically like I picked something up that wasn't even mine, and now that I'm back home, it's just gone. And as I like stood up to go into the bathroom, it's like, well, that's kind of mystical. What does that mean? So, that being the thing that gave me the idea that maybe I'm more of a mystic than the religious type. And that it was the first time I really associated that word with me was because of this idea of having picked something up that wasn't mine, and now that I'm not there with it, now it's gone. But it was there the entire time. So yeah, anyway, so had the mystical thought in January 2012. Then ex I shouldn't have married, but did marry, ended up in the scene March, ended up married in November. And then broke my brain in May. Anyway, so November, I'm going to say December 2019, because I was definitely back home. I came home in March 2019 in the middle of the divorce process, and I'd been connecting with an attorney down in Alabama. That was like one of the last things we did before we left was link up with the attorney. And actually, we had linked up with him, I think, the year before when I left for the practice round. I'm not going to swear to that, but I'm pretty sure, I feel like we did. I'm not going to swear to it. I know he was pissed at me when I told him that I was going to tell my ex that he had so many business days, and as long as he signed the divorce paperwork within 4 business days, then I would leave it with whatever I left Alabama with. Was all I wanted. I didn't want anything else. I just wanted the divorce paperwork to be signed, so then I pushed his mom to help me out on making that be a thing too, because he had no interest he didn't care if I got anything out of him, because then he could use that as as his story, evidence that I was only ever after his money. It's like, I didn't give a shit about his money. It's like, I fucked myself over for that whole situation because my mental health, I was ready to be done with it. It's like, I knew from past experiences with his baby mama drama that he only cared about making me look crazy, right? If he could make me look and feel crazy, he was happy. And I had no interest in being made to look crazy. So I talked to his mom, said, hey, if you get him to sign the paperwork, and I gave her the big long list of why I would never be back, and told her, I said, I know he is like, he's baiting me to try to make me go to court. He's saying that he's going to represent himself, so he doesn't have an attorney and all this, so so he can get screwed over, and that's fine. I can get something out of him, right? And I was not interested. I was just ready to be done. And so when I told my attorney, it's like, look, I said, this is what I'm doing. I said, I'm just ready to have this over with and to be done with him. I said, so I've talked to his mom, and I'm giving him 4 business days to sign the paperwork so we don't have to go to court. And she had more interest in keeping it out of court than he did, because she was going to have to foot whatever legal expenses came up, because that's what she's been doing with the custody case, right? She's the one that's fallen on. So she had interest in not letting it go to court as well. It's like, because I said, I know he is just trying to prove his story that I was only ever after his money. It's like, and I don't give a shit about the money. So March left, July divorce finalized, and there was a span of time where after the divorce, I got really anxious I might have to move here shortly. There's a bunch of people pulling into this other parking lot. If they move to this parking lot, parked like a jackass, because I don't want the sun in my video. Anyway, so as it approached the first wedding anniversary after the divorce, It was like there was like the slow build of anxiety, and I didn't know exactly what was going on until it came to, I don't know, somewhere in the week of the wedding anniversary past the divorce. I don't know if it was before or after, but somewhere within the week, I had a memory pop up on Facebook, and he had commented on it. It was a picture of me and Pepper, my mom and dad's dog. And he had commented on the picture. And when it popped up in the memories, and then I clicked into it and saw he had commented, and it's kind of like there was that initial sick to my stomach moment, but then I also realized that his current, at that time, profile picture had another girl in it. It's like, oh fuck, he's moved on, right? So I was completely relieved, and what I realized was that anxiety that was building was because I was freaking out at the possibility that I was going to have to hear from him again. Because that was like a chronic thing, right? Even though I changed my fucking phone number and my email address and all that stuff, and the ex-wife he had before me, he told me at one point that he had reached out to her to ask how his dog and his cat were doing, that she took, she took with her when she left. And, that was like early on in our connection. I don't think we were even married at that point. But it's like, why? What is the point of that, right? And, well, once I realized, once I experienced the whole thing, I realized that the point was to try to get back in, right? So, I tried to disappear as much as possible. So, I was blocking him on Facebook. I blocked his whole family on Facebook. Because I knew, from past experience, his mom and dad were using his son's mother's profile because she didn't have it on private or anything. She had no security settings whatsoever. So they were getting in there and looking at her stuff so they could, of course, report back. And of course, some of that stuff, I've talked about it on here before, was used in court. Like the GoFundMe that she had started, that was something we found because of her Facebook page. And, they were looking at it. There was like, oh, here, this is this, or we found this out and all this stuff. It's like, all right, save it. They were finding it. It's like, I didn't want any part of that. But as soon as I was out of the picture, it's like the first thing I have to do is disconnect from all of them because I don't want any of them giving my information to him. And, whether it's just they saw a picture of me and how miserable I looked or whatever. It's like, I don't, because, I was, when I left that situation, I was at a high weight-wise, but then it's like, the bad habits increased, going back to that point of dissonance and, feeling unsafe in my body, right? So that was the big thing that came up with the twin flame connection when I encountered his energy, was I was pretty quickly aware that that was a feeling that I was really struggling with, was feeling unsafe in my body. And at that point in time, my means of coping with it was stress eating. I still have the tendency to do that if, I get all wound up. Yesterday, I ate a whole bunch of garbage and it made me about half sick to my stomach. It's like now it makes me sick to eat that kind of stuff or eat that much. And it's just like all the same, but it's like I felt like crap all evening yesterday and a little bit this morning. So yeah, trying to break that habit, having to, I think the biggest thing is to have more of an awareness of the fact that I'm shifting back into the bad habits, because when I'm going for the Rice Krispie treat or whatever, it's like, I don't need this. I can say that, but rather than, resisting it or whatever, I go along with it anyway and still eat it and then feel like crap for a while. I mean, usually it takes more than just the Rice Krispie treat. Yesterday, my aunt wanted me to go out to lunch with her, so we went to a little local Chinese place that I'd never been to before. And they had really good food. But part of what I got was the chicken and broccoli, and it's like one of those things where you could just like taste the sodium. It's like, it would have been better with less sodium. I'll go with that. Less salt. Like, I don't put salt on anything. So when I go somewhere and something is made with salt, like, I think they tend to use a lot of salt in general. It's just saying, like, ugh. But then I had the Pepsi version of Sprite, which was a Starry or whatever. And I like Sprite. I like the Starry. 7-Up's okay. But if I'm having that, it's got sugar in it, so I need to not have a bunch more sugar. So then once I started eating other things that did have sugar, like I think I had a blueberry muffin for breakfast yesterday, and then, the Rice Krispie treat, and I feel like there was something else that I got into, and I was just kind of like, ugh, I feel like shit. Which I feel like that's a good thing. That is making me sick now, because it's less enticing to go ahead and eat it, because like I'm just gonna, if I know it's going to make me feel like shit, then I'm less inclined to want to just go along with it, because I know I'm going to feel like shit. But there was a span of time where, yeah, it might make me feel like shit, but I felt like shit otherwise. I think that's the big thing, is I already felt like shit with the emotional and energetic stuff that was going on. So now that I've cleared a bunch of that from my system, now it's just like, ugh. I feel like I have sludge running through my digestive tract, and that's not cool. But anyway, so November, I was getting really anxious about the possibility of hearing from him again. Then I ended up having this memory pop up and realized that he was already in another relationship. And it's like, he was never somebody that posted pictures of himself. So the fact that he posted a picture where he was with his new girlfriend felt like he wanted me to see that, he was happy in another relationship or whatever. It's like, that's limited time as far as how long he's going to post pictures with her, so he would post pictures of his kid a lot, or just like airplanes and stuff that he worked on for his jobs and whatnot. Those very rarely actual pictures. So when that came up, it's like, that felt like it was specifically meant for me. But what I received from it when it came across my memories, it was like a big sigh of relief, because it's like, oh, thank God. Now I don't have to worry about him connecting or trying to connect to me, right? Or reaching out. And I mean, realistically, I don't know how he would have at that point. Because I changed my email address after all the divorce stuff was finalized. It was like, I had one that I was using beforehand, so I didn't have to use the one that had his last name in it. And I wasn't going back to my old last name either. But then, I still was using the one that had his last name in it for like the legal stuff. And he was trying to send all these emails that include, or we're going to the attorney as well. So I'd have to pay more on that end, right? Because the attorney's having to waste time going through these emails of us bickering. And so it was a whole freaking ordeal. But there was a deal at Verizon where they had one of those buy a phone, get one for $1 kind of deals, or however they went with that. But it was either like on the same phone or one of lesser value. And the catch was it had to be a new phone line. And so I needed a new phone, and my mom was due for a new phone. And we were talking about it. It's like, I said, they have this deal. And she's like, yeah. She said, but I don't need a new phone line, though. I said, I have no attachments to the line that I have. I said, we can let that go. I will gladly take a new phone number. And so we did it that way. And I told the attorney I didn't want him having my phone number, but the attorney had it on the paperwork. So when he was there to sign the paperwork, he ended up writing down or seeing my phone number and writing it down. And as soon as he left the attorney's office, I'm assuming, I get a text message from his phone number. Of course, I recognize that phone number, saying, I've set you free. And of course, since I saw his phone number, I blocked it and didn't respond. And since he had realized I got a new number, I'm pretty sure he ended up getting a new line later. And the reason I say this is because a couple months later, maybe August or September, I get a text message from a number I don't recognize. And he says, was it really so bad that you'll never speak to me again or whatever? And I said, who this? Who this? And he sent me back just the letter Z, and I was like, blocked. Right? We're not even doing that. And that was all it took. It's like, letter Z, that's associated with him. Fuck you. Get the fuck out of my space. We're not doing that. So it's like, I didn't know that he wouldn't try to get another phone number. I figured if he could try to lure me back into having a conversation with him on the new phone number, no, that wouldn't make sense. I figured he was probably looking for a way to blame me for him having to get the new number, right? So I got the new number to disconnect from everything that the people in his life or, that had access to me through him, that none of them had, right? So then he finds out I have a new number. So then he's trying to pull me back in. And when that didn't work, when I blocked his old number, he ends up getting a new number. So he could say I was hounding him, probably, right? So it's like, that was the idea that I was running with. And I was like, fuck that. No, I want no part of that. That's just absolutely not going to happen. But yeah, like it did matter, like that I got a new, I got a new email address, got a new phone number. He's never reached out to me at the current email address, which is the one that I got after, or when I was trying to split up with him. But yeah, because that was like one of the first things I did was get rid of that one, but I didn't want him having access to the new number or the new email. I didn't want him having access to the new number because I knew that would happen, right? So yeah. So anyway, so the little memory pops up and I see that he's got a picture with the new girlfriend. It's like relief, right? So I finally had that sense of I don't have to be wound up about this because he has something else to distract him now. And I'm not part of that. Since he has somebody else to preoccupy his time with, he doesn't have, or I don't have to worry about him coming after me, since I've made it as difficult as I have for him to find me. But yeah. So it was, I think it was in December, the empath videos that Victor Odo was putting out came across my my YouTube stuff, And it's like, what is this all about, right? It's like this thing that keeps coming up. Tell me more, right? So I started following him and, watching some of his videos and getting more information, and then because of that, I got led to Aaron Dowdy and his videos and, got into meditation, had some really weird experiences that kind of freaked me out on the meditation for a while. The big one was I had this night that I was meditating before I went to bed, and I see myself in this black space, but there's like these two purple discs, and they have like a bunch of symbols on them that I don't know what any of it means. One of them's like, spinning this way, and the other's like spinning this way, right? So, I was looking at them and trying to figure out what they meant. I didn't really know what to do with that, right? So I go to bed. When I wake up the next morning, well, it was before I woke up, it was this really trippy experience. So I'm like in the waking up process, and I see myself in bed, and I turn my head. Of course, okay, so there was a span of time where my current bedroom was not my bedroom and it was my office, but this is before I moved into the other room, and I've since moved back anyway. So anyway, bed is where it's at now. So in this dream space, I turn my head toward the wall and I open my eyes, and there's like this there's one of those like gray aliens with the big heads and the big eyes and the little skinny bodies, and he was like standing between the bed and the wall, which didn't really make sense because there's not actually enough space for right there. There's a mattress that Gidget likes to lay on, but it startled me awake. And what I've always, whenever I talk about it anyway, it's like it felt like I was being checked on. And I don't even know how to make sense of that. It's like I wasn't sure if it was in a good way or a bad way. It just felt like I was being checked on. And it was like, I don't know what to do with that, but it freaked me the fuck out. So for a while, I like completely disconnected from the whole meditation thing. It's like, what the fuck was that all about? Am I always going to see aliens if I meditate? Because I'm not sure I'm ready for that. But it was kind of trippy. I stopped the whole thing for a while. Now, when I had my bed in the room that is now my office, which is also my brother's old room, when I moved back home, that room was just full of a bunch of crap. And my mom said if I could clear out some of the extra crap, then I could have the space. So it's like, I can make that happen. I will gladly take over my brother's room, clear out the space so I can have access to another space. Because there for a while I had like, oh my God, it's like the walls were closing in on me. Because I moved back home 2019, and some of the furniture that I had, there was furniture, the furniture that I have now, we ended up buying after I got back. We found it online and went. That was one of the first things we did, because we still had the trailer that we moved all my stuff back in. And before we took it back, my mom was looking, and she's happened to find these people were selling this bedroom set. It had a dresser with a mirror, a chest of drawers, and 2 nightstands. It was like cherry wood, and I like the reddish tones, so I was all about it, right? So we went and picked it up then, because it was like $200. Like, fuck yeah. So we had the trailer and moved it. We went and picked it up, moved it back to, that space that I'm in now. So then I have this big furniture, but then I also had like a whole bunch of shit that I came back with, because like the bird cage I had at the time, Buddha was in with the budgies for a chunk of time. Anyway, bird cages, they're bigger bird cages. The one that they got moved back in, well, there was actually a couple cages that I had to move them back in, but they were their shower cages. I honestly know. I think I had 7 budgies, Buddha, and the male Bork, which his name was Zen, but I never really called him that. And so even that's kind of a weird thing too. Like when I started going to the classes at Empath, and Annie was talking about, like the different ways you can connect with other lifetimes that you've had, and then I'm thinking about the fact that 4 of my birds were, okay, the cockatiels were Buddha and Dharma, and then the Bork parakeets were Zen and Bodhi. And I think Bodhidharma is actually a word, which I didn't know that when I was coming up with it. But Buddha's the only one who really gets his name used much at all. And that's always been the case. I guess it's more interactive. Although, when I first got him, I thought he was a female, just because, like, the way he mainly had a gray face with little orange cheeks, and like if it's just gray, then it's usually more likely to be a female. But he was always kind of chatty, so that was the thing that was like, maybe not. But yeah, there was a span of time where his name was almost Daisy, which was weird, because now my aunt's dog is named Daisy. So I asked her if she remembered that the other day. Of course she didn't. But yeah, that was the start point for some reason. But then when it ended up, he molted and he had a bunch more white come in on his face, and his cheeks got more pronounced. It's like, well, he's definitely, I'm going to say he's definitely a male then. But, when I let the cockatiels keep a clutch of eggs, and they had the 4 babies, the white one with the orange cheeks, I was thinking that she was going to be male because she was so much chattier. So it's like, I don't know what that is. I don't. There's not a direct correlation after all, I think, with some of the vocalizations and whatnot. Because that was one of the things that they said in the Facebook group a lot, was the females tend to be quieter. It's like, well, that wasn't the case with that one. It was the case with Dharma. She was pretty quiet. Tuesday was pretty quiet. But Ducky, dude, she was obnoxious. And honestly, yeah, I don't know. I think she was probably the one that got on my nerves the most and made it so I was like, you know what, these babies need to go to a new home because I cannot do this. So yeah. But they were a couple years old. But I think it probably worked out well with the lady that I found that ended up, she found me when I had them posted. She had 2 males and 1 female, and the female had died. So she just had the 2 males, and then I had come along with 2 females. It's like, hot damn. So that worked out really well. But yeah, I hated it coming down to that, but at the same time, that bird, especially when Buddha took more of an interest in her than Dharma, which is his mate, for a long time, he got kind of crappy to Dharma after I kept Ducky. So yeah, anyway. They were getting on my nerves, and I was finally just like, I can't do this anymore. I have to find them somewhere else. So yeah, anyway, now I'm down to 2, just Buddha and Bodhi. But yeah, like I had so much furniture in this space because I moved from a house into a bedroom, right? So, I mean, I had a bunch of stuff in the shed, but it was just like so many layers of things, and the walls are closing in on me. And then, yeah, so then I get the option to clear out my brother's room and take over that space. And it's never been fully cleared out because there's a dresser in there that used to be for Gracie's stuff. However, now that she's not there as much as she used to be, I mean, she's not there now at all because she's in Oklahoma. But after the pandemic, they started keeping her at home a lot more. Because there for a while, it was like she was always over at our house. And then she was wanting to have sleepovers at grandma's house all the time. You know, she wasn't spending hardly any time with her parents. But then the pandemic happened, and then she started staying at home more. And I think that was probably one of the best things that could have happened. But yeah. Oh, and that's so silly how I jump from different things. Because that path started because I was talking about, how I wouldn't want anybody going back and wanting to watch all of my videos or anything. It's like I don't feel like anybody should spend all their time relying on other people's information. I think, there's several pages that I follow or several channels that I follow to get information about things. But then after a while, it's like after I spend so much time with the information, it's like, okay, well, now I've moved on. And, if something comes up along the way and it's like, that has a message for me, then I'll watch it. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, I don't feel like, because there for a while I was spending a lot of time with the stuff Aaron and Vic were doing. Like they had different classes and stuff. And then they got a bunch of meditations, and I've done a bunch of their meditations. Aaron had the 21-day Raise Your Vibration Challenge, and that kind of started a whole nother direction. It's like it went from expanding beyond the empath topic into this more esoteric path, I guess, in the meditation and, frequency stuff that I talk about a lot. But yeah, it's like I don't feel like it's of value to rely on any one source more than... It's like take what the universe presents to you, and not all of it is stuff that's meant to go with you. Some of it's meant to stop you and make you consider whether that aligns with, the path that you're on, or if it's not for you. And if it's not for you, that's not a problem, right? So go wander a different direction, and try that out. And one of the things I've talked about on here a few times too, when I started feeling like I was more ready to consider actually putting forth some effort to grow my channel, it was very short-lived. But I had this thing pop up on my my one email address, the one that I just have it's set up for vocal media stuff, and then also it's linked in my information on my channel in case anybody wanted to reach out and connect for any reason, right? So that is there's less content going to that. It's like I have so much junk that goes to my regular email that I tend to overlook stuff, and then I end up with library finds and stuff. But I'm trying to keep that for the other one for stuff that if it comes up, I want to find it easier. And one day I had this thing that popped up, and it was totally spam, but it was still... It's like the point of it wasn't that I was meant to follow that path and get scammed over or whatever. It was to give me the space to think about what if I'm ready for the growing of the channel or anything, right? So, and I thought, yeah, maybe I am. And then I started looking at different ways to maybe potentially do that. And then, I tried a couple different things for a little while. And then I was just like, yeah, I don't want to do this. It's like, this is just too much effort to invest on this. However, it at least allowed me to face the idea that, yes, maybe I'm ready for it to do a little more, right? And because going back to when I started, my first three subscribers, I cried, right? Because I was so afraid that I was going to fail at this thing that I was doing, and then I didn't even know exactly what I was doing. I just knew that I was doing what I felt like I was supposed to be doing, even if that didn't make sense at the time, and then it ended up being this thing where I'm like crying through storytelling half the time, so like for the whole first year, I made absolutely no effort to do things that would bring attention to me. And now I also see how that's also, one of those things where, you're trying to go unnoticed for the sake of, holy crap, let me fix that. For the sake of doing what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing without drawing a bunch of attention to myself. Because, like the video I cried through a while back, it was my catastrophizing video. And the only reason I felt like I needed to share that day was because it's part of the process, right? It was, there's been so many, I had so many months of things being way better, and then there. Yeah, maybe not. Oh, don't dump it on the floor. There's dog hair back there. Oh, well, that's not gonna work. Anyway, there's been so much that I've done in the space of feeling immensely better from where I was when I started out. And that was one of those things of the earlier videos would be more easily accessible to people that, haven't been spending any time doing any kind of work on themselves, the lower frequency stuff, right? Because that was me processing through a lot of the lower vibe stuff to get it out of my system, so I could start making more connections and moving beyond that. So then, I have a bunch of videos where I'm in a much better headspace, and a lot of the people that have found me, I mean, God only, I think there's probably a good chunk that have found me through like the videos where the focus has been like the narcissistic abuse and whatnot, and the Dr. Ramani and Jerry Wise and Richard Grannon type videos and whatnot, or like commenting, whatever comments I have along the way. I feel like that's probably more likely where a lot of it's come from. But to have that day where it felt like I crumbled because I realized that the thing that I'd finally realized my family had been doing my entire life, and kind of that tendency to catastrophize, then I was having that day, and it's like, this is true to where I'm at, so I need to include this. And that was the one that had a shit ton of views, and it was like, I want to say it was like close to 1,000 views. I haven't checked on it since then, so I don't know if it's still growing or whatever, but there were like 16 comments. Of course, most of those, about half, I try to respond, but still, it's like, ooh, that was just a lot of attention to that. And that's what the big thing I realized was that shift where it was kind of a step back. While it's a very relevant part of the process, it still brings more of the potential for the negative attention that I try to avoid, and can usually do so when, when I'm not fucking catastrophizing everything and worst case scenarios and all that bullshit. But yeah, since most of the time the interactions that I have on my stuff is not usually that harsh as it was the day that I was catastrophizing and just needed to get that out of my system. It's like, I've even commented on some, I think, Instagram or YouTube things where it's like, it's a necessary, relevant, healthy part of the process. And in that space, opened me up for some of the more negative attention that I try to steer clear of. Which is also one of those things which, like, I've talked a lot about how I try not to get to the stuff that shows much of who I am until a little later. But it's still stories that I've lived through. So I feel like the start of them, I'm not trying to be attention grabbing necessarily. So, I feel like the people that are more inclined to continue watching the stuff, if they can get past the boring stuff at the beginning, is going to be more because they are more likely to have seen or recognized something in my energy that they could connect with, right? So that has been the bigger thing. But when I started, my first 3 made me cry because I was so afraid that I was going to fail at this thing, and I didn't know what the thing was, and, as I've talked many times on here, it's like the biggest thing about doing the thing was storytelling as a means of healing to get the junk out of my system and step into a new way of being, right? Access a new way of being that I wasn't able to access when I was stuck in always catastrophizing before, because that used to be my go-to. It used to be very much on the, this isn't going to work out, everything's going to go wrong kind of a thing. And there again, twin flame things, the reason that had to shift. But when I started, I wouldn't even talk about that from the get-go, because I felt like that was a silly thing to talk about and was going to make me sound crazy. And I'm used to sounding crazy in my life, but I didn't really need another reason for people to think of me crazy for it. So, so there for a while I didn't even mention it until the dreams started getting involved. And it's like, no, I have to talk about this because it's too relevant for what's going on. And okay, so here's one of those things that I haven't talked about. Was it last week? I've talked on here a few times about how there have been days where it's like, I feel the counterpart's energy very vividly. But there were a few days where, I talked on here a while back. It was back over the summer. I ended up on a side of town I'm not normally on. And there were all these signs about foster care. And seeing the sign triggered this sort of playing out the scenario in my head, right? Where, everything works out with the counterpart and we end up deciding to look into, essentially adopting a kid, but we end up connecting with this 17-year-old, and it's like I can see everything about him except for his face, right? Like the kind of clothes he tends to wear. I can see like this kind of like dark blonde hair that's about shoulder length. And I've had a bunch of, like, he hasn't ever gone away. But the interesting thing is, as soon as I started having this scenario that was playing out in my head with the 17-year-old, there was this space in the vision where It's like I noticed something off about his energy, like he wanted to be excited, but at the same time there was a hesitation. And it's like I noticed it and asked what it was about. And he talked about one of his good friends who was a little older than he was and getting ready to age out because he was, even closer to 18, right? So we end up with 2 older kids, right? And they're both 17. One is this kid with the shoulder length-ish blonde-ish hair. And then there's his buddy, which is a taller black kid. And it kind of it expanded beyond that. Like, I don't think it was an immediate after, but there was also a girl, like a 16-year-old girl that got added in. And there was a span of time, I don't know, it was last week or the week before, where I was seeing scenarios play out with these kids very vividly. Like, even, counterparts on tour kind of a thing. And, there's a scenario where the boys go with him. There's a scenario where they're all hanging out at the house with me. I've seen me and the girl going and getting our hair done, right? But it's like, I feel like the stuff that's playing out in these visions now, it feels more like I feel more grounded than I think I ever have. And then, like, for these scenarios to be playing out too, it's like, but these feel like that's not that far away, right? And in the space of, the counterpart connection and whatnot, I'm still in my 40s when this whole thing, we link up with these kids. So it's like, I started spending time with these thoughts of, okay, so if this is something that's going to happen and I'm somewhere in my 40s when we connect to them, it's like that means they already exist, which is kind of a weird feeling, I think, to know that, that these potential kids that end up in my path somewhere along the line are already out there. But yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it feels very, very real at this other level in this other space. And I have felt, especially around that time, I have felt more grounded than I think I ever have. Just like with everything that was going on for me and in the space that I was in, it's like, I feel like, it's closer than it's ever been. But I don't know. It's just been kind of a weird thing to experience too. But it's like, I can see them. The faces seem kind of blurry. Name wise, that seems kind of a blurry thing too. I think I watched a Nordic Light Tarot reading the other day, and she was talking about, there are a lot of people that once they go on their spiritual paths, they end up changing their name, like whether it's the first name or the last name, because they no longer identify with that. It's like, I don't even use my last name if I don't have to. Honestly, it's like, because I feel so completely disconnected from my family, especially since, I had Jones as my last name for a long time, and then I ended up getting married and changing it, and then I went back to it, but it's never felt like I don't feel connected to it, especially as I've done all these videos and processed through the stuff where it's like, a big part of my issues has been with my parents. So it's like, I don't feel like I'm really that connected to that. Like, freaking Facebook, I have my first and middle name, so it's like, yeah. Excuse me. Anyway, but yeah, it's one of those things too. It's like, okay, so like in the vision space, where I think the conversation with these kids is if, what they want their names to be, right? Because, I know There's a girl that I went to high school with and her grandfather was best friends with her father was best friends with my grandfather. And she's like a year younger than me. She and her husband have been adopting. I think they have 3 kids that they've adopted. And the stupid thing is, the first one, my grandmother got after her and said, "How could you do that to your parents? They deserve better than that," or something. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you that you have a problem with taking in kids because they weren't originally theirs? It's like they, got them out of like whatever situation they were in. I don't remember what I said to my grandma, but I called her out when she said she got after her about how could she do that to her parents. It's like, piss off with that nonsense. That's bullshit. But again, I'm pretty ready to disconnect. I had to go over to my grandma's house the other day and I was so irritated. And I mentioned that in the video that I did the other day, because my aunt said she left money for me at my grandma's house. And so I was walking my dogs around the side lot. It's like, all right, I'll go over there because I could use that 20. My storage unit payment is due here in a couple days. So I need that money in my account so I can make that payment. And I went over there, and my dogs, oh my God. They know that anytime they go over there, there's usually snacks. And they were just getting into whatever. And my grandma had a thing of donuts on the floor, like a powdered sugar donuts. And Taz grabbed them and like flipped them and shook sugary shit all over and crumbs everywhere. It's like, well, y'all can clean that up, but you're not getting anything more than that. And then the brief encounter that I have with my grandma, she gave the money to my other aunt because she thought my aunt said to give it to her. And what I think that is, I feel like it's less, okay, there was this layer of, okay, this is stupid. So when I was at the group home in Indy, when I first started, there was this really creepy client that didn't live in the apartments anymore, but he would call pretty regularly. And I don't like talking to him. I don't like having anything to do with him. He was really sketchy. Nobody really liked him. It was very untrusting of him. But every single time, because he had like a big temper, every single time he called and answered the phone, did the little spiel. It's like, such and such group home. This is Sarah. How can I help you? Every single time I said, "This is Sarah," he said, "Hi, Beth." I was like, what the fuck is that all about? How are you hearing Beth when I say Sarah? But okay, whatever. But then, so this thing comes up and my grandma says that, she thought my aunt told her to give the money to Beth. It's like, no. So there's this level where I'm wondering if it's sort of, since my energy is not there anymore, she's energetically forgotten about me, and now like my aunt is the next closest to my energy, because I think my grandma I think that aunt was more along the lines of the scapegoat before I came around, because she's never wanted to be around my grandfather by herself anyway. And my mom always used to make fun of her for that. It's like, no, that makes perfect sense to me. But I feel like a part of the reason me and my brother are so close to that aunt is because, like, the shit with our family, she was the one that got the brunt of that before we existed. So I feel like since I pulled my energy back, that aunt kind of, they just, my grandma essentially doesn't remember me or my energy, so she links it to my aunt instead. It's not that she said my name. Apparently she asked the other day, or said something the other day about I never painted her deck. And hopefully I move out of here before that comes back around, because I really don't want to spend any time over at my grandma's house for for anything. And yeah, anyway, on that note, I'm going to wrap this up so I can go back home and maybe walk the dogs before it gets dark. But I got the shirt in the video, so hey. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.